Let me just get a feel. This is based on A Course in Miracles. Everything I do has been based on The Course in Miracles for the last 40-some years. Is there anybody who's not familiar with The Course in the audience? Oh, good. I almost see no hands, so I don't have to do sometimes I need to do a little minute or two of explanation of what the Course is all about. Suffice it to say that I have spent most of my life, actually, studying mysticism and teaching classes on mysticism, and there is nothing like A Course in Miracles. It is the most profound mystical document ever to cross the face of planet Earth. That's personal opinion, and it's shared by many. And it really works. I think that's the main thing about it. It really transforms people's lives if you do what it's asking us to do. In that sense, it's not easy, but the rewards are abundant. They really are. And I know you got some classes that meet here as well, so be part of that. I want to start with a few quotes from A Course in Miracles. These are just really one-liners. I got 5 one-liners just selected from different points. This is not in order. But it's about our words and it's about our thinking. The Course is really a course in mind training. So we're learning how to train our minds to think, to come from a position of love instead of coming from a position of fear in our relationship to the world. I love the definition of Jesus that appears in the Course in Miracles. It says, Jesus was a man who saw the face of Christ in all of his brothers and sisters and remembered God. Isn't that a great definition? A man who saw the face of Christ, but you've got to see the face of Christ in your brothers and sisters. In yourself, but it's a two-way thing. As you give, so do you receive. You can't be giving it unless you're also receiving it, and vice versa. Now, these 5 sentences. Vigilant against the demands of the ego to disengage yourself. It's like a little reprimand. Carefully for any belief that accomplishment from it. Watch your mind for the temptations of the ego and do not be deceived by it. The body acts wrongly only when it responds to misthought. And finally, when you have given up this voluntary dispiriting, you will see how your mind can focus and rise above fatigue and heat. So the Course really spends 34 times in the Course in Miracles. It says the phrase, watch your mind, watch your mind. Just, what are you thinking? What are you projecting? What are you putting out on the world? How do you see the world? Here's another little bit longer quote from the Course. This is from chapter 21, section 2. It's called Responsibility for Sight, the first part. Projection makes perception. Just that sentence. Just let that sentence. Projection makes perception. The world you see is what is nothing more than that. And while it's not more than that, it's not less. Therefore, to you, it's important. It's a witness to your state of mind. It's an outside picture of an inner condition. And the next line is one of the most quoted in the whole Course. Therefore, seek not to change the world, choose to change the mind about the world. Perception is a result, not a cause, right? So everything is really based on how we see it, but it's really based on how we think about it. Because how we think about it is also how we see it. And the Course places a great deal of emphasis upon judgment. There's a line in the Course, 2 short little lines. I love little 3-word sentences. The ego analyzes, period. The Holy Spirit, that's 4 words, accepts. The ego analyzes. We analyze the hell out of this world. Good and bad, it's nice, it's not nice, it's pretty, it's ugly, and all that analysis keeps us from being able to see purely. The ego just accepts. We accept what it is. Jesus continued to see only with love despite what was happening to him. Even from the cross, he says, Father, forgive them, they know not what they're doing, because they clearly did not know what they were doing. And he's really there on the cross, that you're not really a body. The truth about who we are is we're something that really transcends the body altogether. The Course in Miracles calls the body actually a limitation in form. So I want to focus on how we think and then what we say. First, we think it. Do you ever notice how sometimes you're going to say something and you'll get, and then it's like, there's like you're asking permission of the throat and the tongue to, and then it comes out and you go, oh, I hadn't said that. Or sometimes you go, I'm really glad I didn't say that. Henry Seuss, who was a famous mystic from the Middle Ages, at one point says, I have often repented of having spoken, but I've never repented of having kept silent. Not spoken, right? Think about how that may be applied, right? So when I say word fasting, what do you do when you go on a diet? When you go on a diet, what you do is you cut back on certain foods, or you cut back on the quantity of the food. Hopefully you're cutting back on quantity and the type of food, both. So you cut out starches or fats or whatever it is that you're cutting out in order to get more into a normal state, not overburdened, right? So the same way here, what I'm suggesting is you cut out certain words. You just eliminate these words from your vocabulary. You know what they mean. You understand them, but just Jesus in the gospel says, it's not what you put in your mouth that defiles you. It's what comes out of your mouth that defiles you. So I'm going to suggest that you watch certain words. Now, I've got a whole list. I'm going to go through part of it. There's a chapter in one of my books out there called Living A Course in Miracles, where I got a much longer analysis of this. And I have a CD out there also called, which is about an hour-long talk on word fasting. So let's start off with a few categories. The first category, I'm assuming you don't do the first category. You already don't do the first category, right? This is called profanity. Yeah. Damn it to hell. I mean, really? You know, what happens when you get up in the middle of the night and you go to the bathroom, but you don't want to turn the light on to hurt your eyes, so you stub your toe against the dresser. What do you say? God bless it, right? No, you don't say God bless it? Try that. Reverse it. See if you can be conscious enough to reverse it and say God bless it instead of, what we usually would say, right? And along with profanities, vulgarities. And you know what I mean about vulgarities. I used to teach in a college. I remember once going into the student lounge to have something for lunch, and there's a boy sitting at the next table to me, and they only had one adjective for everything. And it started with an F, and I won't need to continue what it was. Lord, I thought, can't you get a little bit more creative in terms of the possible adjectives you could come up with here, and adverbs and everything? That was the description. Beautiful and ugly, good and bad. All right? So watch out for, one of the things you really want to watch out for, name calling. Just see, these words, stupid, idiotic, ridiculous, absurd, insane, that's name calling, right? Name calling. What do you want to be doing in name? That's very judgmental kind of stuff that we're doing. Watch out for words that have to do actually with balance, whether you think about them or not. Now keep in mind, the thing I really want you to think about is what is the projector of the words. That's the main thing. Right? So did you ever say that you were disappointed about something? Okay, so the question is, what is it that's disappointed? I mean, after all, you made the appointment, right? Some sort of expectation or anticipation about the way other people are supposed to behave or be, and they don't. One of the worst things you can say to a kid is, I'm disappointed in you. It's really not very, very helpful at all to say that to a kid, right? So watch out for, as I said, balance. As in, did you ever say something offends you? That's interesting. Why anything that offended me, it knocked me off the end, that's what it did. Why would anything offend you? Who are you to be offended, right? You got to be a judge, right? Or upset, that's balance too, right? you ever say you got upset about something? You got to look, why are you upset about something? And the next part of that, chapter 21, the next section, there's a section I ask my students to memorize. It's just 4 sentences long. Let me say, I'll share it with you really quickly. It says, and this is, you really should memorize this if you're a Course in Miracles student. I am responsible for what I see, period. I choose the feelings I experience. Now, that's a lot. But I choose the feelings I experience. So why do you choose a particular feeling? Why do you choose to be hurt, for example, right? Nothing can hurt you. You're an invulnerable child of God, right? And by the way, the Course flips everything around always both ways. It says, you cannot hurt somebody else without hurting yourself. Think about that. Just as you cannot give without receiving, so you cannot hurt someone else without hurting yourself, because then you feel guilty. And that's not a pleasant feeling. You may not be conscious of the guilt, but nevertheless the guilt is there. Then I have a whole group of dis words. I used a dis word already, disappointed. But there's also disgusting. Think about it. That's a very judgmental word. And I heard a very popular speaker the other day say that something was disgusting. I thought, boy, that is. Why the judgment? Why the heavy judgment? Right? Are a baby's diapers disgusting? Yes. Someone said yes. They are what they are. You know, it's just, they are what they are. And it just depends on who you are and how you see it, right? I used to teach for 8 years. I taught inside Sing Sing prison for Mercy College. And I noticed that one of the words that my students used a lot, hey, he dissed me, man. He disrespected me. These guys want to be respected too, just like everybody. You diss me. You don't diss anybody. Disgusting. Anything that's distracted. Anybody got a $10 bill? I'm serious about this. I need it. I may have one myself, but I really need a $10 bill here. I've got one. Good. Usually I get one from the congregation and I keep it. Whose picture's on a $10 bill? Right. Got an educated group here. Who was Alexander Hamilton? First Secretary of the Treasury. You probably know that he was killed in a duel, right, by the then Vice President of the United States, Aaron Burr. Did you know he was killed over a word? Yeah, the word was despicable. And this is how it happened. Can you imagine this going on in Congress? Alexander, this is like a couple little boys now. Alexander Hamilton said to Aaron Burr that what he had done, that was despicable. Burr turns back to him and says, take that back. Like a couple little boys fighting, right? And he said, no, I'm not going to take that back. He says, okay, then I challenge you to a duel. They dueled in Weehawken, New Jersey, and Aaron Burr killed Alexander Hamilton over the word despicable. Of course, there was an idea behind it, but still the whole thing, that's what got the whole thing started. His son was also killed in a duel, right? A lot to be learned there. But it's one of the things, by the way, that eventually led to the outlawing of dueling. Although that was about 1802, it was about 1826 or something before they actually outlawed it. It took a while to get around to doing that, right? So, watch. Whatever it is, maybe it's just a little thing. I do a lot of speaking at Unity churches all around the United States, and I was at Unity of Buffalo. I am so fortunate in terms of the people I get to see, like I get to see my good friend Richard Schaefer here somewhere a couple nights ago and have dinner with him. And last night I was with another friend who's Mark, who's a musician. I don't know if Mark was going to be here maybe later this morning. He had to play at another service earlier this morning. Anyhow, I was staying with this guy who was professor of physics at the University of Buffalo. And it was I love this guy's mind. He was such a conversationalist. And of course, he was bringing physics and spirituality together, and that's always a lot of fun. And, well, it really is, because modern physics is doing more to prove the reality of spirituality than religion is. And that's really true, right? So he was, I could just see him in front of a blackboard. He kept, and then, and he talked about that idea. Oh, and then. But he had this little word inside his psyche. And I noticed he kept using it. What bugs me is, and I thought, well, that's an interesting, he's got a little bug in there. There's something that bugs him, like a little virus in his psyche. Now, normally I wouldn't have done this, but I decided this guy was mature and sophisticated enough that it would be okay for me to point out the bug. So I said, it's very interesting, you've got that little, did you notice you've got a bug in you? And he said, oh, I do, don't I? Yeah, that's true, I got that bug. Well, that's right, thank you for pointing it. And not everybody's going to be thankful for that. But he was thankful for it. So he helped us see it differently. That's all. And all I'm asking that one do is just notice the way we talk. Notice when you're with friends, how often you're just casually talking over coffee or tea, and the conversation will turn to they. Who are they? They're the idiots out there, right? That are trying to run this country, right? You're cool. You understand. Heck, if you were in charge, it would work fine. Huh? One of the main emphasis to notice, to get really, really clear about how incredibly judgmental you are. Because it's not until you become aware of how incredibly judgmental you are that you can stop it and then turn it around and go the other way. That's actually a phrase from the Course in Miracles. Because first you got to stop it. By the way, does anybody know? Get on to Jordan Peterson. Go on YouTube, or he's got the best-selling book out right now called The 12 Rules of Life. He is so bright and so sharp. I just finished listening to his book as I was driving. And he talks, start stopping. Start stopping. Start stopping the kind of things that you want to yourself. I wish I hadn't said that. And you just stop eating too much. Lots of things you can stop doing. Start stopping some of the bad habits, and it'll all change. Do you all know Stop It, by the way? From, no? Yeah, I'm assuming most of you probably do. It's just really good illustration. I'll pass it. So but just being aware is what the Course can do. What should happen is you're doing the Course. You should find yourself becoming more and more and more aware. And more and more and more aware. And more and more and more aware. So it's less and less and less likely that you're going to get caught up in this kind of language. It's less and less likely that you're going to be finding problems in the world. And you're going to be finding it is much more likely that you are going to be finding peace of mind. That you're going to be finding a sense of quietude coming up inside you. Interestingly, the Course in Miracles does not place a great emphasis upon meditation. It does, insofar like you'll do a lesson, and at the end of the lesson will say, be quiet. But all the time. It'll become an automatic, you'll be meditating all the time. As you're living, you'll be meditating. And that's what we really want to get to. So I have a little piece I'd like to close with, and I'd like for us to share it together, and then we'll have a meditation. And so, you see what's on screen now? Okay, so what we're going to do is, we're going to read it slowly and carefully and just sort of let it sink in as we go through each line, right? So, together. Be careful of your thoughts, for your thoughts inspire your words. Be careful of your words, for your words precede your actions. Be careful of your actions, for your actions become your habits. Be careful of your habits, for your habits build your character. Be careful of your character, for your character decides your destiny. Thank you. Now we're going to have a meditation. If you'd like to be quiet, relax, take a couple of deep breaths, and just be very present. Now, as with the prayer, or the proverb we just read together, I'm going to ask you 5 times during the meditation to say something with me. And what I'm going to ask you to say is, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Say it with me right now. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. So I will preface that by saying, say with me when the next time comes. It's quite possible to listen to God's voice all through the day, without interrupting your regular activity in any way. The part of your mind in which truth abides is in constant communication with God, whether you are aware of it or not. It is the other part of your mind that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. This part is constantly distracted, disorganized, highly uncertain. Say with me, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. The part that's listening to the voice for God is calm, always at rest, wholly certain. It's really the only part there is. The other part is a wild illusion, frantic and distraught, but without reality of any kind. Try today not to listen to it. Try to identify with the part of your mind where stillness and peace reign forever. Try to hear God's voice call to you lovingly, reminding you that your Creator has not forgotten you. Say with me, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. We are actually trying to hear God's voice, reminding you of Him and of yourself. We approach this happiest and holiest of thoughts with confidence, knowing that in doing so we are joining our will with the will of God. He wants you to hear His voice. He gave it to you to be heard. Say with me, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Listen in deep silence. Be very still. Open your mind. Go past all the ruckus shrieks and sick imaginings that cover your real thoughts and obscure your eternal link with God. Sink deep into the peace that waits for you, beyond the frantic, riotous thoughts and sights and sounds of this insane world. You do not live here. We are trying to reach your real home. We're trying to reach the place where you are truly welcome. We are trying to reach God. And one last time, say with me, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Amen.
Scared to be counted, filling the darkness with order and light. You are the sentinels, silent and sure, keeping watch in the night, keeping watch in the night. You know your place in the sky, you hold your course and your aim, and each in your season returns and returns, and is always the same. And if they fall as Lucifer fell, you fall in flame. And so it must be, and so it is written on the doorway to paradise, that those who falter and those who fall must pay the price. Lord, let me find him, that I may see him, safe behind bars. I will never rest till then. This I swear by the stone.